The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Good evening and welcome to My State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. The condition of buildings is a primary concern for everybody who thinks about education. The teachers, the administrators, the support professionals, the students, the moms and dads. And of course, we still have more questions and answers, and we're on the roll here. It got a little bit worse on yesterday, when the Providence Teachers Union filed a request to a federal agency for review of the building, something that would take not days or weeks, but the entire school year. The Providence superintendent did introduce a report that he says was transparent about the prep work being done for the schools. It's kind of a mess. We're going to talk to the president of the Providence Teachers Union coming up here momentarily. Here's what 12 News had to report.
The Providence Teachers Union says they want an unbiased opinion on the condition of Providence schools.
It's our moral imperative to be sure that our schools are as safe as possible when our students return.
A 7-page letter sent to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health is asking for an evaluation into the impact of COVID-19 exposure on school employees. The state completed walkthroughs of all schools to ensure they were up to code with protocols put in place, but the union says they were inadequate.
Why no transparency? Why weren't parents allowed, or community folks, or even students allowed to be on these so-called walkthroughs?
President of the Providence Teachers Union, Maribeth Calabro, says they weren't given the opportunity to collaborate with school leaders ahead of the start of school. The Rhode Island Education Commissioner said Monday they welcome the federal inspections.
We've done walkthroughs. If they feel that they want other agencies to come in, we're fine with that. We don't have a problem. But I have to be very clear that the walkthroughs were for us to get ready. It is not to point fingers.
And so Maribeth Calabro, the president of the Providence Teachers Union, joins me. Not her first visit in pre-COVID or post-COVID times. And I'll tell you, I've never seen a more fluid news story in my career. Then again, we've never seen anything like this in our lives. Maribeth, you had this press conference yesterday. You're taking well, you tell me, do you feel like this is a bold step? Is this a step that other teacher unions across the country are taking? What is it, and what is your specific request for this National Occupational and Health Safety Organization to step in here?
I think it is a bold step because I believe that we are, based on what we've researched, I believe that we are the first in the country to do this. So yes, it is a bold step, but I think it's a necessary step. And this is in response to a whole host of issues, but not the least of which is that we believe that, the governor initially stated that there were going to be inspections of schools, and then she walked that inspection back to a walkthrough. And then once unions asked for a seat at the table or participation at least in the walkthroughs, she asked that we trust the process and the people that were doing the walkthroughs. And while it's one thing to trust the process, it's a completely different thing to verify. And so we were not asking to be investigatory by any stretch of the imagination, because of course we're not engineers and we're not HVAC system employees. We don't know the first, I can tell you I don't know the first thing about it, but we just wanted to ensure that there was validity and comprehensive systems in place, that these walkthroughs, if you will, or inspections were being done, and we were denied. And as were parents and community folks and media, quite frankly.
Yeah. It's been a baffling exercise. It really has, because the governor doesn't seem to want to, she doesn't seem to want to own the building safety. she was not sure exactly what her authority was when the big August 31st green light came. Later in the week, she finally admitted that she doesn't have the authority to mandate the schools to start. She's had, various and inconsistent response from the districts based on the district's self-confidence that their abilities to meet the standards of what the governor's administration laid out for safety are. And then she put out a document that used the word inspection, but the director of health, Dr. Alexandra Scott, wanted to walk that definition back. So the governor walked it back. Then the governor said, well, it really wasn't my idea anyway. It was Larry Pirtle's idea from your sister union, the National Education Association. And then it's a working session, and I understand why perhaps you wouldn't want the press there, because the press, observing and asking questions could disrupt a working session when there's 400 schools that she's got to walk through, or they've got to walk through with 15 different teams, many of which have just been trained up. But it seems to me to be completely inexcusable that the teacher unions can't have as many team members as there are teams to join these walkthrough, inspection, reviews, tours, whatever. Who did you speak with before you took this action to try to figure out what your active and consistent participation for review could be?
So we had been asking to participate in the process. I know Frank Flynn had asked and initially was told that could be a possibility. And then basically we were told no. And then we heard that the media was told flat out no. And so then we asked if, my upper union, the RAFT, just wanted to be made aware of the results. And we were not made aware of the results. We wanted to see them. And then I heard the other day that, many superintendents were sharing with in the NEA, especially in the NEA, were sharing with their union presidents the results of their walkthroughs. And then it started to trickle into, the RAFT. And so I thought to myself, maybe I should just do the right thing and reach out to the superintendent in Providence and ask him if I could see the results. So Friday night, around 5 o'clock, I sent Superintendent Peters an email saying just that. Superintendent Peters has been brought to my attention that other districts around the state have been sharing, their superintendents have been sharing the results of their walkthroughs with their union presidents. I was wondering if I could get the same courtesy, and I received no response. And then, in conversations with RAFT and the AFT, and we had our own delegates over the course of last week because we were hearing, my windows are screwed shut. I have a leak in the HVAC system that's coming into my classroom. The water's brown when I went to turn it on to clean, my sinks and things like that. I said to my delegates, I want you guys to do your walkthroughs then. And we gave them a document to go and do walkthroughs in our schools. And then we decided to do the NIOSH request. And lo and behold, on Sunday, it occurred to the district to publish the walkthrough results publicly ahead of Monday, apparently. So parents could be aware. And so in comparing, teachers read everything. And so when the results of their schools walkthroughs came out and they looked at their delegates' walkthroughs and knowing and living in the schools for the past week, there were some discrepancies. And so it just made it that much easier for this complaint to go forward.
Okay. All right. When we come back, we'll talk about the district response versus what could be a very lengthy. I mean, even if the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health takes you up on your request, that is a long process. And we're in school, sort of.
Yep.
Be right back with Maribeth Calabro, the Providence Teachers Union president, here on My State of Mind. Stay with us. Maribeth Calabro, Providence Teachers Union president. Believe me, as frustrated as you are, moms and dads in Providence, and state actually, have to be pulling their hair out, trying to figure out what's happening here. I don't even know how to even position it, but you have, the teachers union has sent out this letter to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. It is a lengthy 7-page detailed request for what seems to be a lengthy review. In lieu of reading the letter to people, how urgent, how often, and how lengthy do you want this review to be of the school buildings? And in the middle of that, are you comfortable with going in, even on the elementary level, where that's the start right now for Providence?
This is not a PR campaign, right? This is about the health and safety of our children and our teachers, right? And our teachers obviously are adults, and they can make decisions about how and their physical health and planning and PPE, et cetera. But we have had the better part of 6 months to do the best that we possibly could to make our buildings as safe as possible. And that didn't happen. And then Gina has the audacity to come on a radio show and say, well, I have $50 million in CARES Act money, and not one district asked for that money. Well, I'm sorry, Governor, but the Providence School Department was taken over by the state of Rhode Island, and you are the lead head of the state of Rhode Island, and you stand next to on the stage the person who took over the schools in the state of Rhode Island, in Providence specifically, and you know the conditions because they were glaring in the Johns Hopkins report. And I have not been silent for 5 years about the conditions of our buildings. And so you never thought to look over at your friend, the commissioner, and say, I have $50 million in the bank of CARES money. You might want to use some of that to make our buildings as safe as possible for the return of children.
Your response is understandable, but when someone misrepresents the truth, AKA lies, about when the assertion of I've got $50 million, blah, 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 and no one has applied for it is made, that sends you into the tizzy that you are currently in. I don't fault you for that tizzy. I don't fault the commissioner either. The governor has done this on X number of occasions in her.
Well, I'm not faulting the commissioner either, because she didn't get documentation until August 27th.
Right. So
I'm not faulting the commissioner. I'm faulting the governor.
Well, but the thing here is that the governor has suggested, well, there's $50 million and no one. It's the same thing she did with the small business grant dough.
Exactly.
She, under pressure, put $50 million into an account and then restricted just about every Tom, Dick, and Harry that could apply for it. And, well, the demand is not out there. Well,
right.
You restricted all single business owners. You restricted
Correct.
this category. You restricted that category. So nobody applied because they couldn't.
Because why bother? They're not going to get it.
Hey, listen, you've got to be 35 to be in the club. That's why 27-year-olds don't apply. I mean, it's just so what she did with that was a complete misrepresentation. Then the commissioner got to back it up and say, by the way, there are a few districts that have applied because they've gone ahead and had the resources to spend ahead for reimbursement. I'm also told that $50 million, if allocated for building safety, can get used or deducted against their regular revenue sharing, which is not unlike what happens when you go on unemployment and you take a job. You go, okay, If I'm
Yeah.
making 600 unemployment, but I'm making 150 at the job still, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm not going to, it's this whole trade of monies and
Right.
cash that's going on. So, you know, it sounds like you've lost your rocker or your accusatory. You're making accusations that are ill-founded because the governor sent, she's not telling the truth about that $50 million.
No, she's not. She's absolutely not telling the truth about it. But even at that, with that said, we had 6 months to at least bring the buildings to clean, semi-sanitary. And no one's holding Aramark accountable for that, right?
That is the company. That's the company that is
And they have a very, very lucrative contract.
and you're telling me that forget the HVAC COVID stuff. Are you telling me that the schools are not lickety split clean at least? Forget that they're deteriorated, but are you telling me that the work hasn't been done?
And this is what I said today, because this was mentioned at the press conference. We didn't expect to walk into the Taj Mahal. When we have a building that was built in 1929, we understand that paint peels, wood is rickety, and there are certain things that will not be like our PCTAs, our Nathan Bishops. We get that. That's what we do when we walk into a building that was built in 1929. What we do expect is that the wrappers that were left from lunch on March 13th would have been swept up. Or when you waxed the floor, you would have swept the floor first so that the rodent feces that was on the floor wouldn't have been waxed over.
All right. So when we come back, we'll talk about the difference between maintenance and COVID protection and how they're linked for this teacher union. We'll be right back with Maribeth Calabro on My State of Mind. Stay with us. Back with Maribeth Calabro of the Providence Teachers Union. So you're asserting that the schools in general, I'm sure there are some schools that were cleaned, I hope, but
Yeah.
but that you've got numbers of schools that weren't touched or barely touched maintenance wise. Where does the HVAC COVID concern intersect with the filth issue? How does that? Because you've always had filthy schools. So sorry, that's why there's a report. That's
Right.
why we had a national search lead commissioner. That's why we have a new super. That's why. So we knew that was slow go.
Mm-hmm.
And you could still arguably and legitimately argue that, you know, filth is unacceptable as well, but you never walked away from school because of it. Now we have COVID.
No.
How do the two intersect? Bring it together for me.
So there are things that we know about COVID, right? Initially, there was the concern about droplets, hence the reason why we wear masks, hence the reason why we cover our nose and our mouth. Now we have information that says that transmission potentially has to do with aerosol. So there are ways in which we are supposed to transmit or transform the air in our schools so that we clean or rotate air. If we have a pod, if you will, or a group of students in a class, 26 to 29 students in a classroom, in a building that doesn't have HVAC. This is not about buildings with HVAC, right? In a building like mine, mine, Gilbert Stewart, Roger Williams, Broad Street School, Harry Kazarian, those kinds of buildings that are built much longer ago than the 70s. We have windows that are non-operable. Okay. And so initially we had the conversation about being able to open the windows and open the doors. Well, if you open the doors, there's also fire code that you're supposed to keep the doors shut. So did we get a pass from the fire department, from the fire marshal, to keep our doors open so that there could be a flow of air throughout the windows?
Did you? Do you know?
I don't know. The question's never been answered. The question's been asked, has not been answered.
Okay, so
ask.
So truth be told, we only have a couple minutes here. Every building's different, so every building has unique challenges. What are you trying to do with this letter? Are you putting a marker down? And at your press conference yesterday, did you put a marker down to say we're not coming in until, or is this an either or?
No, it's not an either or. What we want is as safe as possible as we begin to bring more students into our schools. right? That just increases the likelihood that people are going to get sick. So when we increase the likelihood of our exposure to other people, I would hope that we could increase the safety mechanisms in place so that we could try to deter the spread of the virus.
All right.
So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Interrupt you.
Did you investigate the feds coming in? Have you heard word that they've got the letter and would respond?
No, we sent that out just this morning. So I'm believing that they will respond in a timely manner. And you know, I'm not asking for us to put brand new HVAC machines in buildings that are built in 1929. What we're looking for is, there have been reports that said that the ionization fans can be placed into windows in buildings such as ours. How much do those cost, and why didn't we investigate that in April, May, June, July, or August? To change and filtrate the windows. Why didn't we invest in ionization HEPA filters that stand up in air cleansers for classrooms, especially at the elementary level when we were going to bring them all back initially?
Well, we're going to have to get their superintendent's response to all of this, you know, ASAP. If it's as you say, and I have no reason to quarrel with your representation, it is one of the worst management fall downs ever. I mean, you've got that time. Nothing was going to be more important than building preparation for the virus. Nothing. And
we're the state, Title 16 says that there's supposed to be a fire inspection and state inspections of every single building. Where are those inspections done, and where are the results?
Right.
Air quality inspections of every building. Where are they?
We'll leave it there, and we'll continue to follow it. Appreciate it. Maribeth Calabro, Providence Teachers Union President. Final word.
Thank you.
Stay with us. I don't know about you, but my confidence is low in terms of building safety across this state for COVID-19. Did you have an expectation that it would be high? We'll continue to follow the story. Hang in there. Be careful. Talk to you tomorrow on the radio too at 3 until 6 on WPRO. Good night.